Hello and welcome to another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast. My name is Ethan Shalloway. I'm here with Chris Salona, and we're excited because today we get to talk about the Stone Temple Pilots. Chris, before we get into it, what about Scott? Yeah, before we get too deep into everything, obviously, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I really don't have any complaints, nor is anything particularly exciting going on in my life. So I'm just going to toss it right back to you. How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing well.
Yeah,
it's been a good week. Just kind of training. I sprained my ankle last week, so
yeah.
been dealing with that. But other than that,
It's no
been
good.
pretty. Yeah, got some rain coming through, but overall, energy is pretty good. March is here, so I think we're both happy about that.
That's true.
So it seems like the year is, we're kickstarting. We're just getting rolling here, and I feel like
we're coming out of hibernation. We had
as they say, big things are on deck. Big things are coming.
Exactly, and most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but of particular importance to this space, March is the Grunge Bible Podcast's birthday month. We turned 2 this month. We started on March 21st, 2021, if my memory serves me correctly. So I'm really excited. This is episode 102, so we have one more in between until the almighty 104 second birthday episode. But, that will come in time. But in the meantime, I am really excited for today. As time goes on and as we move through episodes, a lot of what we do, if you've listened to us before, is kind of run to the rhythm of the calendar in terms of when album anniversaries are and when things happen or have happened in the past. So sometimes there's not really a whole lot going on, and we have the opportunity and the ability to kind of pick and choose exactly what it is that we want to talk about. And today is a prime example of that. And when you and I were kind of planning this week's episode, we realized it had been a little bit of time since we spoke about the Stone Temple Pilots. Everybody says that we forget about them and that we need to talk about them. So we're going to do that. Way back in the day, in 2021, we did an album review of their first album, Core. And today, it's a privilege to be able to sit down. That was 2021 we talked about it. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Wow.
And I don't know, don't quote me on that. I think it was September 21. Whatever, it's in the archives. It's when you do 102 podcasts, they start to blur together. But today,
Right.
Their second album, we get to talk about the Purple Album from '94,
Second album.
which is really, really exciting.
More on that later. The second album.
More on the fact that it's their second album later. But I like this album, and I'm really excited to discuss it with you today and to share in that discussion with everyone who chooses to listen to this.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Some big hits coming off this one, and pretty complete album altogether. So excited about that one. But before we get there, we have some housework. No, some
housekeeping
to take care of. Yes, and
we're getting our affairs in order.
And that is the simple question of who is funding this enterprise. Who
Right.
do you represent, Chris? Who do we represent?
We represent
And
the
right
people
now-
that fund us.
Right now, it's just the people. Yeah, exactly. So we are totally supported by our fans in the form of Patreon and people donating $2, $5, or $10 each month. That's the only type of backing that we have right now. We are in the search. We're on the move for some sponsors
We've got a
and whatnot.
little
But right now,
R&D going on right now, a little business development behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. But if you are listening right now and you say support other people on Patreon or are looking to maybe get in the game, I think it's a great opportunity to offer up $2, $5, or $10 to us. We got 4 episodes a month. We don't miss. So if you break it down, it's very small. The maximum you could think about it is $2.50 an episode, which would be not that much.
A small price to pay for at least an hour of enjoyment each week.
Yeah, and like I said, we're pretty consistent. I like to think that we're pretty good at it. We have a lot of fun, so consider that while you're listening to this week's episode. Chris, if you will, please enlighten everybody on who exactly is funding this.
It would be a privilege and an honor to do that. At this time, as is accordance with our tradition, I would like to read the names of the top level Patreon supporters who choose to give us $10 a month and make this podcast roll the way that it rolls. So I would like to thank. Excuse me.
You
I would like to thank. Yeah, it's tough. You get the yips and you're like.
Every time, right before you start, you clear your throat and say,
well, I don't know when to clear my throat. I'd rather do it at the beginning than do it in the middle and dishonor somebody's name by coughing. I agree. So, at this time, I would like to thank Christine Shepard, Alex Long, Black Hole Sean, Alexis Shannon, The Blue Owl, Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, Doug Andy, Kara K, Captain Hightop, Brother Nature, Faith Bittner, Fresh Tendonitis, Fuck Soup, Granny Grunge, Jade Mercado, Chris LSMS, Carlene Salona, Jamie Lynn, Lauren Irene, Marianne, Millie, Nikki Six, Rachel Corning, What the Fuck's Up Denny's, Seattle 4 fanboy from New Jersey, and Shoe the Shoeless. I don't know what's going on with me right now. It's tough. But here I am.
Dude, it's tough.
And there they are.
It's tough out there. You did a great job.
Yeah. I did an okay job. I didn't do a great job.
It's okay. We'll try again next week, right?
Exactly. That's the nice thing. These people, they've been with us for a long time, so there's always going to be a next week. So what do you say we get into the episode a little bit? But before we do that, I do have one more additional piece of housekeeping. So this episode is coming out on March the 6th. This is episode 102. And because it's March 6th, I do have to mention on March 8th, Soundgarden's fourth studio album, Super Unknown, turns 29. It was released on March 8th, 1994, to much commercial and critical acclaim. It's, speaks for itself, obviously. So, if you're wondering, Grunge Bible Podcast, they always talk about, album anniversaries. They love doing that shit. That's pretty much all they do. Yes, you're right. And we already did that. So if you're interested in commemorating the anniversary and the 29th birthday of Super Unknown, I would suggest that you go back to episode 51 of the Grunge Bible Podcast, where we did a song-by-song album review and discussion of Super Unknown. It's important, it's topical, and it's a hell of an album. So it'd be great if you like that album. You check that out and see what we think about it and see if that aligns with what you think about it.
That means next year it'll be the 30th anniversary, and we were running this page when the 25th happened. So I'll have the first, the 25 and the 30th that we'll be able to experience on the page.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Crazy stuff.
Not that it means anything, but it is kind of.
We've
been doing this for a little bit, Chris.
We have. We've been doing it for a fair amount of time.
Okay, so Purple. Second album, Stone Temple Pilots, came out June 7th, 1994, a few months before I was born.
That's true.
Pretty cool. Second studio album. Overall reaction to this one is obviously there's Big Empty on there, Vaseline, Interstate Love Song, some songs that we really appreciate. I think Big Empty is one of our favorites. And as I was listening to this prepping, I kind of realized once again how complete this band really is. I mean, the lyrics, you always have awesome vocals. I feel like the bass line is always so prominent in their music. It's always behind, the backbone of the band. Obviously the guitar riffs and solos, they're perfect. And then you get some good variety in the way that he does stuff. And like I said, the lyrics always stick out. He's like a poet. And Scott does a really good job of writing and making these songs mean something. And it's a very good album. All the songs can do well on their own. I feel like they all stand alone really well. And then you put them together in an album and it flows pretty good. Sometimes when you listen to fully through, I can, there may be some fatigue involved, but if you take them in by themselves, I feel like I get something out of them every time, even when I'm not really expecting it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, the last couple of days, Ethan, when you and I have been discussing this album and also this band, I mirror and I feel the same way that you feel about this band and about this album. There's something about the Stone Temple Pilots that every single time I do and I take an informed listen, and I listen to, you know, a record of theirs front to back. Like for the bass guitar that Robert DeLeo brings always sticks out to me, as well as the drumming from Eric Kretz. I'm just continually impressed by the flavor that they were able to give these songs, and just the way that they were able to write these songs. And something we were talking earlier today, before we were recording this, and you know, it just kind of hits you again, like these dudes could write songs and put together some really, really cool stuff. And then it got me thinking about, certainly at the time, and I suppose post-Core, pre-Purple, if you hadn't listened to Core in its entirety and you had just heard Plush, for example, you know, Stone Temple Pilots got a slanderous rep for being ripoffs of Pearl Jam, and the fact that, you know, we're here nearly, what is it, 28 years after this album comes out. The fact that we're still here and there's still people that say that, they've obviously not listened to this band. They've obviously not spent 5 minutes skimming through the Purple album, because the diversity that they bring on this record, and just the level and variety of challenging sounds that they bring, and it's cool. Like, I love when bands are not afraid to get a little weird, and I love when bands are not afraid to break the mold, relative to what people know them as or expect them to be. And I think the Stone Temple Pilots were really, really good about that. And I have to say, I think it starts first and foremost. I mean, you could write these songs, you could record these instruments, you could play these songs, but you got to have a front man, you got to have a singer that is up for the challenge of presenting that weirdness and presenting those challenging sounds, and putting it together in such a way that it's not a gimmick. You know, it's not like, hey, we just decided to make this album that sounds nothing like what we used to do, but it sounds real and it sounds for real. And I mean, Scott Weiland, I mean, I think around this time, 93, 94, 95, I mean, I think, my opinion, he was at his pinnacle of his power, of his confidence on stage, and of his ability to deliver songs that hit you and affected you across, you know, you can't even begin to name or you know, categorize the different genres or the different influences that he presented to you. But I mean, they're all here on this record, and I gotta say, it's my favorite Stone Temple Pilots album, the Purple album.
Yeah, I agree with, you know, talking about Scott, watching some live video again, getting ready, and man, he was so unique on stage, so unique in his delivery and his dance moves. People talk about it, and he was just quite the character, and he brought every song alive. Like, he made every song feel special, and he sung it to, you know, the best he could, and it was always beautiful. So I always enjoy going back and taking more time to listen to them, and I'm not really sure why they're not like more heavy into my rotation. Probably because I think, I mean, they are super diverse, but I think I always like kind of mixing it up and going around, and
right.
So for some reason, I don't spend like an incredible amount of time with this band. But this album probably right up there with Core. I don't know which one I like better, but this one has some really good stuff. So, so the album cover is really interesting. And I was looking at it, and you know, they don't have the title on it. It's in China. It's a Chinese character, which is pretty cool. And I really like the art. I think it has I think it's pronounced a Qilin on it, which is a Chinese character for. It's like the imminent arrival. It's to represent the imminent arrival or the passing of a sage and an illustrious ruler, and a baby a baby is on top of it riding it, and it's just a colorful album art. And I was surprised it's not just all purple, but it's really cool. And none of the song listings were on the back. It was just blank, and you know, it was quite. It's really cool. Like, that's something I want to have on the wall, or like, it's a really good piece of art that I feel like we talked a lot about Core and how they packaged it and did a really good job. And I think that, you know, Scott was very intentional in a lot of the stuff that he did in getting the music out. And I think he's always creative, and it comes to a head with this album and the songs and all the lyrics that we're going to get into. Just very intentional with the music, and I think that's like really important as an artist, and I can admire that a lot.
Yeah, and I think the band as a whole, in the way that they packaged the album, in the way that they wrote the songs, the way they recorded the songs, and the way they performed them, I see a lot of attention to detail, and it is really cool. And I think they hit that sweet spot of doing things differently, but not doing things differently just for the sake of doing things differently. And I always really, really admire that when, you're able to break the mold without coming across as just wanting to be a contrarian, because that's really hollow and shallow. But this album cover, it's really great, and I love on the back the fact that they, there was no listing of the tracks. Instead, just the phrase 12 gracious melodies, which we may hear about later on in this episode. But just really, really fantastic, and everything is just so well put together, and it just makes sense. I don't know how to describe it, but there's just something about the album artwork in conjunction with the songs on the album. It just they're very complementary, and it just they're in alignment with one another. So speaking of the album, it came out in June of '94 on the 7th, and the bulk of the recording was done just in 1 month in March of 1994. So here we are celebrating the 29th anniversary of the recording, with the exception of a couple of songs, Big Empty and Loungefly, that had a lot of work done previously. And Big Empty was the first song that kind of made its debut in the world, having been recorded and performed rather at Unplugged in 1993, which is really, really cool. I mean, we'll get to it in a little bit, but I gotta say it's probably my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song. It's just,
and to have it debuted at on Unplugged is legendary. It's so cool. I wonder, how much they knew. They knew it was going to be a hit, and they wanted to showcase it there. It's a really cool timing thing. So happy that happened the way it did. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, that's definitely a song that I think now, Scott Weiland no longer being with us, I do think that's a song that a lot of Stone Temple Pilots fans like to listen to, because it's a way that they can kind of remember and feel close to Scott. I know I certainly do. That's the first one that I turned to when Scott passed away. You put on Big Empty and you listen to it. But this song, this album, it's got 11 tracks on here, including a very vaunted hidden track. But what do you say we get right into it? As they lead off their second album with Meat Plow. And Ethan, what are your thoughts about this song?
All right, so I know I just praised the album a ton, but Meat Plow is not my favorite. Not my favorite, just because I just like some of the other songs that they have a lot better. It doesn't sonically. It's very the same throughout the song, but I know that it has some pretty good support. Like people like this one a ton, but this one is actually not one of my favorites. So I don't want to speak too low on it, but it's just kind of comes and goes. Could have put it later in the album. Started with something else. Started with track number 2, Vaseline would have been great. But whatever.
I have to say it's really hard to, when listening to this album front to back and trying to present your thoughts on it. It's hard for me to listen to a song like Meat Plow just on its own merits and not compare it to what's about to come, in the ensuing songs on the album. Because like you said, this one is very, very consistent throughout, which there aren't many songs on this album that are consistent throughout. And that's something I think the Stone Temple Pilots did so well, is their songs have highs and lows, and they have soft parts and they have really, really loud parts, and they nailed those transitions in between. And I also kind of thought I love kind of like the buzzing guitar on this song, and I think that this is kind of reminiscent of a lot of the sounds that they captured and shared with us on Core. So I always wonder when it comes to setting up an album and tracking all of these songs, if there's any intentional nature to that, as when people are putting this thing into their cassette player, putting the CD in, and the first song that they hear, it's like, okay, like this sounds like the Stone Temple Pilots, because obviously later on in this album, and it doesn't take very long, you get into some songs that really challenge the perception of what a lot of people would have felt the Stone Temple Pilots were at the time in 1994, having, maybe picked up Core in September of 92.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so song number 2 is Vaseline, and this is one of the bigger songs of the album. A lot of radio play, and really just like opens. It's like it's the one that they play to start the show. It's the one that really starts it going. You get the kind of the drone in, and then the guitar comes in hard, and then Scott does his thing, and this one is huge. Really good. I mean, we talk about it a lot. Really good car jams. Like this is they're it sounds bad to say they're a radio band, but man, they fit the radio waves really well in my eyes. And this song is a great example, obviously.
Yeah, and it's really interesting with a song like this that now looking back and also having been born after this era, this is as synonymous with the Stone Temple Pilots as just about any of their hits.
Right.
But at the time, I mean, this does sound quite different. It's got that kind of punchy beginning. I mean, the chorus is just absolutely incredible, and it's just really, really complete. And that the band was able to write this one and put it together. You have the wah wah pedal bass effect going on there, and the lyrics are also really, really great too. And there's a fun story about the line "flies in the Vaseline." So Scott Weiland, evidently, when he was a lad, he had heard "Life in the Fast Lane" by the Eagles, and he misheard the lyric "Life in the Fast Lane" as "flies in the Vaseline." I don't know how that would happen, but that's just the way that it goes down when you're SW.
Flies in the Vaseline. Trying to think about
So
that's funny.
Next time you hammer some Eagles, just try to see it his way, maybe. And this is a point in time here. In 1994 when he's writing these songs, we were talking before once again, and we were just talking about Scott's a poet and the way that he presents songs and where he drew these songs from. And in this song, he was very explicit and forthcoming when he was asked about it in ensuing years, that this song was just kind of about his struggle, with addiction and being in the same situation over and over again and succumbing to those urges and those faults that you feel, and just getting stuck here again.
Yeah.
So, really, really, really great song though. And I think right here is where you start to see that kind of soft and loud, juxtaposed together, in a song, with the verse and the chorus. You've got your verse kind of being more subdued and the chorus really hits, the drums kick in, Scott's voice gets louder, the guitars are more full before bringing it back down, into the verse. Yeah.
And then of course you get in a nice couple bars of a guitar solo to shred in there, which is really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this album definitely has Scott's very thoughtful and self-aware of talking about love, sex, marriage, and death. It's the big four, or the big stuff in life. And I feel like he really attacked that on all of his lyrics and a little bit, or all of his lyrics a little bit in each song at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to song 3, Loungefly. This one's pretty cool. This one's really chaotic to me.
Yes.
It's very chaotic, and it has this really deep drums in the background just playing, and it's such a build, and it would be really fun to see this one live on stage, because I feel like it would be quite the build and really fun to go along with. This is a good sleeper of a song.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I have to say, I really appreciate the back-to-back songs right here with references to flies. Really, really important. You have flies stuck in the Vaseline, and then you have a song called Loungefly, which is really great. But this one definitely is a little chaotic, and I think this is where that new challenge to the listener starts to come in, and I think this song is such a great statement that they're so much more than just a rock band, and they're so much more than the band that you hear on the radio that's playing plush. And once again, I think with the lyrics in this song are really, really, really impressive, and I love the outro where it's just kind of over and over again. She said she'd be my woman. She said she'd be my man. And I think almost more so than than any of the other songwriters from this era, with the exception of Kurt, because his lyrics were really, really eclectic. I struggle to kind of interpret maybe what the message was in a lot of Scott's writing, but this one, with the theme a lot of times just about struggling and Scott feeling like he was lacking. It almost feels like this one is kind of talking about like, you need your significant other to be all things for you because you're struggling to be it yourself. But Loungefly, a really, really good one. And like I said, it's kind of that beginning of the statement that like, hey, like as a band, we can do a lot of really, really different things here. And we're excited to show you throughout the rest of this album.
Moving on to song number 4, Interstate Love Song. And a lot of everybody knows this one. This is one of their largest radio played songs. For good reason. Chris, what were your initial, do you remember the first time you heard Interstate Love Song? Do you have any like first thoughts of this one or something like that?
I do remember way back, I remember really being enamored with, this was before I really knew anything about music. You hear the intro and you hear the slide guitar. Well, me at the time not knowing what a slide guitar was or how you would make that sound, I'm like, holy shit, like that sounds really cool. And it's just kind of like, it's just this like really tired slide guitar part at the beginning, which is really, really cool.
The whole song, he sounds tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a long road trip tired.
Yeah. And it complements the subject matter quite a lot, and Scott kind of writing this one, once again about his addiction and where the addiction would lead him to be dishonest and different things like that. But this one's really, really great. I love Eric Kretz's drums on this. I think the chorus is absolutely iconic. Leaving on a southern train, only yesterday you lied. It's so good. It's so singable. It's so followable. And this is definitely right up there with Vaseline. It's like these are songs that are synonymous with the Stone Temple Pilots. And I know people really, really, really love this song.
Yeah, I think what made this song incredible was like how the verses stand out too. Like you said, the chorus is super singable, but these verses are like also so like poignant and like they just kind of jump off, and you hear the guitar and you hear the lyrics, and it's just obviously memorable. I mean, it's really good,
and it's cool,
really well done.
Yeah, and in those verses, like he hits those first words, and then you hear the little guitar riff in there. So it's like waiting, pause. You hear the crunchy guitar riff. The
it's
up
timed
and down
out
strokes.
really good. Exactly.
Yeah, and the same thing, verse 2, like breathe in. You hit the guitar with the drums is the hardest thing to do, and it's just so well put together. And once again, it's just a showcase of that synergy that they had seemingly from the beginning as a band. And by the time that they reached their second album, they were just kind of able to really, really get to the outer limits, I think, of what they felt that they could do. And it certainly paid off. Really, really paid off. Also, notably about Interstate Love Song, it is the only Stone Temple Pilots song that was covered by Hootie and the Blowfish. Very notably, that one's been making the rounds the last couple of months on the social medias and the TikToks of the world. And
thank you, Kanye.
I'm just glad. I mean, I gotta tell you, Darius Rucker, he kills that part. he kills Interstate Love Song. It's so good.
Just the other day, I fell asleep on the couch at night watching something, and I woke up in a haze to Darius Rucker on the screen
oh my
singing
God.
to me.
It's like your sleep paralysis demon.
I woke up, I was like, not Darius Rucker, not again.
Not again. Here we are again. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's very traumatic. I apologize that
it's okay.
that happened to you. Yeah.
This next song number 5 on the list, is "Still Remains," and this song is a beautiful song. I think this is. I don't know. I see you right now. I think you think the same as me. This one is really quite good. Maybe underrated. It has this. It has like it sounds like something like maybe like Dave Grohl would write, and the Foo Fighters had the way that they kind of play through, and it has this beautiful melody throughout the whole thing. And I just love the lyric, "If you should die before me, ask if you can bring a friend." Yeah. And that one hurt. That's just like is such a deep lyric to think about, to that if somebody, if you were to lose that person that means the most to you, then you're ready to like follow them and kind of. What are your thoughts off the bat?
Yeah, I love this song. I very vividly remember this one. This one when Scott Weiland passed away. You go through their discography and you try to. I think we have this weird habit of gravitating. If somebody dies, you gravitate towards the songs that they wrote, the songs that they sang that discuss death. And I very vividly remember looking back at this one and getting really emotional listening to it. And it's that song for me. I love this one. I love the guitar just sounds so big. It's kind of like drones at the beginning and certainly at the end. I love how it kind of fades out. When he hits that last "pick a flower, hold your breath, and drift away" line at the end. This one is so good. It's just kind of like a big anthem. Which is, it's interesting because the subject matter, like you said, is so like that, like agape love. Like, if you die, like I need to come with you because like I don't know what I would do without you. And I wrote again. I wrote again in my notes in all caps, Kretz again. And you got Eric Kretz here just hammering away on the Skins, which is really, really impressive. And I there's this theme for some reason, Ethan. Every time we do this exercise, I feel like I always just keep talking about the drummer. Like, holy shit, the drummer. But, like, there's a reason for it. I think you got to have somebody like Eric Kretz. Certainly, the Stone Temple Pilots needed somebody like him, and they had him, and they still have him. But I do have to mention, I love, this might be my favorite Scott Weiland lyric of all time. Drink the wine and save the water.
Save the water.
Yeah. I love that one. I love that one a lot. And this is a really, really great song.
Yeah, I would, if you're listening to this and you need to go back and listen to the album, I'd recommend this song for sure to start it off, kick it off, get you in the zone. Yeah. Other than, the big ones, but if you want something a little different. Or you could go to Pretty Penny, which is the next song. And I love this song.
You've always been really high on Pretty Penny.
Yeah. I like the stripped down side of it. Obviously just the vocals and kind of like the it's a little off tune in a way, in the way they kind of play things, like the way it's tuned, I guess. And it's just really good. And Scott has, in an interview in '94, I'm gonna read his quote about it. It's a little bit, but he says, "We were in our rehearsal room and Robert and Dean were playing acoustic guitar with each other, playing this line, and Eric grabbed a couple microphones and started tapping in some kind of rhythmic pattern. It was coming through the monitor, and there was a single Indian drum made out of stretched leather, and we just started a little interplay between us. We recorded onto cassette tape. I took it home. The melody came into my head for the verse, and it became a song. It's a special song. Personally, one of those songs you write because of some form of defense mechanism that's subconscious. I wrote it in third person, and I only realized a couple weeks ago when I finally listened to the whole album that it was actually an introspective thing. It's easier to write in an allegorical sense third person when it's something you have a hard time looking at. It's probably one of my favorite songs on the album, and I think people are going to love it or hate it." And it's just so good. It's just like one of those things where, you're writing these things about tough subjects and you kind of enter the third person because you know that it's about you deep down, and it's maybe hard to kind of get out. And this song was actually performed. Chester Bennington played this, I believe it was in 2013, and heartbreaking parallel of him playing it, and like you could say he was singing about Scott, foreshadowing, and then obviously he passed away, and just like an incredible version of him playing and singing, and it was beautiful. And like I said, it's just one of those stripped down songs that you can allow you to rush over you. So, and I just love hearing him talk about it in that way, where it's like kind of like a soundboard to what his life and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting and complete look into this song that is it sounds kind of off time, like you said, and I wrote down that it kind of sounds like a trance type song. And I love the lyrics in this one. Have you lost your sister girl? She's all but blown away and lost the pearl and the price she paid. Gone when you find that there's no one sleeping. And it's kind of like, the vocals are kind of descending throughout the chorus, and that guitar part in the background is kind of ascending at the same time. And so like they're directly at odds with one another, which is really, really interesting. And I think really challenging. And they played this one, I forget which show, it might have been like a VMA show around this time. But I just love, you know, the latitude of the landscape that the Stone Temple Pilots could go to this award show and play a pretty eclectic song, and present it to everybody. But yeah, this one is this is a really, really interesting one for sure.
Yeah, and it's your good old fashioned interlude from the first half of the album to the second half, because you know, after that you kind of jump back into the super,
to the Stone Temple Pilots world.
Silver Gun Superman, and
Silver Gun
kind of
Superman,
sinister type of sounding. It's just it's a good one.
And this one, once again, you know, so you have Pretty Penny, where Scott was maybe writing about himself and he didn't even know he was writing about himself. You know, I think this one, Silver Gun Superman, is kind of a more conscious understanding that he was writing about things that he was struggling with. Pretty explicitly here about writing about heroin and struggling with addiction, with the connection that, you know, Silver Gun has been used to refer to a heroin loaded syringe. And yeah, this one, it's kind of got that that weird guitar that kind of sounds like it's coming through like a talk box at the beginning, which I really, really, really like. And you know, the chorus is kind of floating, and the verse is like way down dark and dirty. Dean DeLeo, his solo in this song is really, really impressive. And I also have to say, there's a theme here that we haven't quite spoken about with some of these other songs earlier, but this band, they always killed their bridges in the song, and this song's got a really, really great bridge. You know, I think back to Vaseline too. It's got an incredible bridge to this, you know, to the song there, and this one as well. It's got one for sure. So what do you think about this song?
Yeah, I wrote down that this is the one I wrote down when I feel like the bass was really came through in a good way. This one's, again, it's really heavy, but it also kind of mellows out and it's very melodic through the verse or through the chorus in like a beautiful way. So, it kind of has, it got a little bit of everything in it. And this one's good. I need to listen to this one a little bit more. It's not one of the ones that I went to. So, I'm excited to kind of go back and get into it a little bit more, but
yeah, this one won't disappoint you. This one's really, really good. And I think they hit their stride so well on the chorus and just kind of how it's like above the rest of the song, as I was talking about earlier. I think it's a really, really great kind of beginning to the the back half of this record. And as we move on,
very heavy,
as we move on to the 8th song, which we started to get into it a little bit earlier before we even started the review, Big Empty, which made its debut, as we said, it Unplugged in 1993. My God, I absolutely love and adore this song. I also really, really appreciate the fact that it's one of the few songs that I can, in fact, play from front to back on the guitar. If I can do it, anybody out there who's listening who has a pulse and 2 hands, you can also do it. This one's great. I just love Conversations Kill.
Conversations Kill, yeah. We used to talk about that a lot and send that to each other. Conscious Laden. This one's just obviously like an incredible blues influenced beginning and kind of whole thing. I think that's something that separates them from the rest of the music from this time, is the blues influence and how they would bring that style into all like a lot of their songs. They would bring it in, and they would let, I don't know if it was just because they they wanted to, it was kind of fun, or if they really, I don't know, maybe wanted to do more blues stuff in totality or something. But this one's beautiful. This one's really good. Obviously.
Yeah, it was included on the soundtrack for the movie The Crow as well, and had a lot of success being a part of that soundtrack. It was also the first single to this album. But I have to say, this song, I think is the perfect encapsulation of the poet that Scott Weiland was. I always go back to the second verse of this song, Too much walking, shoes worn thin. Too much tripping and my soul's worn thin. Time to catch a ride, it leaves today. Her name is what it means. Too much walking, shoes worn thin. And this one kind of goes back to that sentiment that I think you start to gather with Interstate Love Song of just being tired and you know, you're feeling the wear and tear of the things that you've been struggling with and you know, those dark habits that you may have. And I think this one is kind of showcasing that more and more. And I think that sentiment is louder here as we're getting deeper into the record. And I think it comes across more. And certainly with this song, once again, the bridge is really, really great. Everything kind of slows down and it's like hushing, but you're struggling to keep it under wraps. And then it builds up again and you go back into that extended chorus, the outro there, you know, where it just repeats over and over again. And he puts a little bit of a flair, you know, on that second time to take her home. It's just a really, really, really great effort. And like I said, I think for me, it's that one song that I go to when I want to kind of think about Scott.
Yeah. Having it be the 8th song on the album too, and like you said, kind of second half of the album, it's like going through the whole album, and then kind of get to the point where I like what you said about the shoes worn thin and all that. That's so great. Great symbolism. And you can even use it for the album. So like I said, to the end of it, you're kind of getting, you know, everything's settling in and stuff. Feeling
absolutely
the height of the album, or the height of the subject matter, that is.
Right. So
this is a good one.
Yeah. So we've got a few songs left here. So after Big Empty, we move into Unglued, which to start this is just kind of a return, I think, almost to the Meat Plows of the world and the core kind of sentiment. Like this is kind of like your driving rock song. And this chorus here, you know, it's really fast paced. Yeah, I got this thing. It's coming over me over and over and over again. Dare I say this kind of sounds like a Nirvana chorus. Like it sounds a little Nirvana-y to me, like almost like a Bleach era Cobain song, which is really interesting.
I thought you were gonna say Mudhoney for a second, actually.
That too, because Bleach era Nirvana and Cobain was basically like a Super Fuzz Big Muff tribute. So I think there is a little bit going on there. What do you think about this song? If I recall, it's not one of your absolute favorites.
Yeah, that, although what you just said kind of revitalized it a little bit for me. That is such a good way to, you brought me back.
Put the word out that we're back up.
The same thing of what I just said. After, you know, kind of listening, like, so if you listen to this front to back and you have Still Remains, Pretty Penny, and then Big Empty, as well as Silver Gun, Superman, but those three songs, and then this one just, I think, like I said, when I get to it in the course of the album, it just doesn't do it for me usually. It has a really nice guitar solo and that redeems a lot of it, but maybe if it took the spot for Meat Plow and it was the first song and Meat Plow was here, I would have a little bit more appreciation for this one. But it's not, it's just not my favorite, but it is still, like I said, still well done, and I think that it's just one of their rock and roll songs. Like, they just rock. And I can always appreciate that. Like, this would be probably, if I learned to play this and played this with if we jammed this, I'd love it. It'd be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And it is cool. And once again, with that fascination that I have as to how bands choose to track their albums, it's like you've had a lot of songs that are kind of experimental, throughout the middle of the order of this of this album lineup, and then you kind of reach the back end. It's like, all right, guys, like, we got to remind people that we're still the band that made Core. We're still the band that can bring it and bring it hard, which they did, and they do again on the next song, which for me has been skyrocketing up the ranks. I got to tell you, Ethan, I'm a big fan of Army Ants. I love the really, it's like this weird shimmering bright but almost kind of watery guitar intro, and then it just goes right into this really, really fast tempo song. And once again, it's got a lyric that just really, really sticks out to me. I got a heart, I got blood, I feel pain. Which, once again, struggling to interpret, I think, a lot of maybe what Scott was saying throughout this record. But I mean, he just spent an entire album talking about his flaws and his struggles, and I think a lot of times as people, we have the tendency to reduce people to the things that they struggle with. And this one's kind of like a reminder of, like, we all have these flaws and problems, but we're still human and we still have our vitality. And we still have to fight and be fought for, and you got to hold on to that. You have to hold on to the fact that you have a heart and blood and that you feel pain, because you're still kicking. So I thought that was an interesting kind of change in subject and change in message, or at least, that's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah, the intro, it reminds me of a Pearl Jam song for sure. And then, and the way they jam too, this song has an incredible finish. It's really big, and they just kind of like really let loose and have some fun. So, and I know, people say they sound like Pearl Jam. This, I can see like the Kretz, the drumming on this song is big too, and it does. It reminds me of some.
Dude, Kretz is a powerhouse.
Dude, he is. He's a powerhouse back there.
He's an absolute powerhouse.
Yeah, this was a really good jam. This is a fun one. All right, taking us to.
Let's take her home right now. Yeah,
take her home. Yeah, to just an incredible. Where do we start with this one, Chris?
with
the lore behind this one.
Kitchenware and Candy Bars / my second album. Well, let's separate them for the purpose of this discussion, and we'll get into the Kitchenware and Candy Bar zone to begin with. And this is kind of like, for me, this is like 1994's version of Atlanta, that came later in the decade. This is kind of them showing that side of them. It's this kind of like big ballad, and it's really cool too, because at this time, there's so much attention, in 92, 93, 94 of like these big hard songs that are rockers, and it's like Scott had a beautiful voice, and the chorus in this song where it's "Sell me down the river,
cool, yeah.
What I wanted is what I wanted, what I wanted is what she wanted." It's so beautiful. I mean, he was such a talented singer, and it really, really shines here just as much as it does on like the heavy rocker, and it's just cool that they're able to put something like this on the album. I really like
with
this
some
song.
of the strings. I think there's strings in the chorus too, and which is it is really cool. And like you said, he has a beautiful voice, and it comes out in songs like this where it kind of soars. The voice soars over a perfect laid track behind it. So
and there's just kind of like a little bit of like kind of exhausted desperation almost a little bit in this song. Somebody showed me I was the last to know. You read the words and it sells you life. They sell their words, but it's all a lie. These are some really, really heavy things that you can extrapolate here. This is one, and I have to say, like, I'm upset with myself that I have had the tendency with STP to kind of cherry pick some of my favorites, some of my known favorites, and I think a lot of us, you miss out on stuff like this, because you reading the titles and you're like, what the hell could a song called Kitchenware and Candy Bars be about? Like, I'm probably not gonna like that. And the next thing you know, you give it a chance, and you're really, really wowed by this performance. This song is just a great performance, I would say.
There's some really unique song titles on this album. Like, Meat Plow, Vaseline, Silver Gun Superman, Army Ants, Kitchenware and Candy Bars. Dude, like crazy. I love it. They're always coming up with good titles. I think that's the favorite. That's like the best part about writing songs, right? What are you going to call it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I absolutely
But the best
agree.
part about writing an album,
the magnum opus of Purple,
is the hidden gems, is the stuff that you don't see at first glance that you need to hang around for, and that's what we get here at the end of the record, is a little Easter egg of a song.
Yeah, we get a tasty little treat here, don't we?
My second album, Chris.
No, my second album, which is the hidden track at the tail end of the 11th song, Kitchenware and Candy Bars. You get the classic, like 30 to 45 seconds of dead air, and then they just, I say they because I don't know who, they bring it to you with my second album, which is a return. On the back on the back of the packaging, it did say 12 Gracious Melodies, and this song is just absolutely It's hysterical. It's fucking awesome. It's this really, really cheesy, like swingy lounge song performed by a gentleman named Richard Peterson. Big Dick Peterson comes to us here. And I love the sense of humor that the band had to include this, because obviously, I mean, you've got decades of history of recorded music by this point, by 94, and it was not uncommon for hidden tracks to be kind of thrown in there after the last song on the album. You get the dead space, and you got a song that like does not even make any sense for the album, and it's like this is really strange. And this was kind of like a parody of the fact that bands were putting very, very unorthodox hidden tracks at the tail end of their album. Yeah. So, you know, you get Scott, Dean, Robert, Eric, and the gang, and they're like, you know what? We're going to do the same damn thing. And they, like I said, they unfurled the big dick, Dick Peterson, to just bring this one home. I love this song.
I love this song, Chris. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it. It's so groovy, and it has obviously beautiful vocals and piano, and like this one's like one of my favorite. It's just one of my favorite parts of the album. I love it. I cannot. It's the new Red Bar, dude. It's our second album.
It really is. Like, and the lyrics are just, they're so literal and stupid, which is just.
I can't wait for you to hear these.
Dude, it's so good. Like, the second album, 12 gracious melodies, worth listening. Hope you enjoy them. Like if it's sung to me. Listen to 12 great tunes playing on your stereo. Like,
so good.
Just incredible. Hey, like, at least they're honest at the end. Like, we're hoping that this record sells. Singing by Your Wishing Well. That's on my album too, the second album. But I mean, I have to tell you, like, I'm a little upset that there was no there were no sorts of awards given out to Mr. Peterson here.
He deserved every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, they whipped him out, and they put him out there, and
I need to look up some of his other music.
Yeah, I need
to see what else this guy's
Peterson
got.
Zone, yeah, and see what he has. I could see myself getting really, really into it.
It's such a STP thing to have.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's absolutely perfect.
Like if Pearl Jam did it or somebody, it would be weird. If Alice in Chains,
and with Pearl Jam, they've been known to do hidden tracks and things like that.
Yeah.
But like, it's so funny
but this
that
style makes sense so much.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, once again, they're right on that line, like of doing things differently, but they do it in such a way that it's
genuine.
It's original, it's genuine, and in this case, it's just downright hysterical, so it works. Yeah. Like, this was the attempt at being humorous and the actual carrying of that out are two different things. And I mean, my God, my second album, I'm floored. I wish, I mean, I'm just speculating here. I'm assuming that there's there aren't any live performances of this that we'll be able to post on the page. But if there do happen to be any, you all will be the first to know, because we will post that might be the new Wood.
Holy shit, dude. I hope that there is, man. That would be amazing. Or maybe Big Dick Peterson will have played it on his own for something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one can only hope. I mean, that's really all I could hope for.
That wraps up Purple, Stone Temple Pilots' second album. No better way to finish it than with my second album. So, totally. If you're still listening right now, thank you very much for tuning in and coming to the completion of the episode. That means a lot to us. Thank you to our producer, Drew McFadden. He worked hard on these episodes, and we appreciate him for that, because without him,
totally do.
we wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't sound as good. I know that. Maybe we'd still put out some raw audio for everybody.
It would not sound particularly good, though. I mean, it wouldn't sound as good as my second album.
No, yeah,
we know that. Yeah,
we don't sound as good as that anyway.
This has been a good episode. I'm glad we were able to do that, and give the Stone Temple Pilots their due, and hopefully adequately feed everybody that's always at our throats about not talking about the Stone Temple Pilots, not talking about Scott. Well, here you go. You get about an hour uninterrupted on Scott and on Stone Temple Pilots, and I survived a couple of bouts of the giggles to bring it home. But I mean, that's just the kind of thing that happens when you're being serenaded by Dick Peterson. So, I mean, if you can't relate, try to put yourself in my shoes and see it once my way, and then
try it on.
Have it my way. That's great.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. All right. So that concludes. Chris, we have one last thing to take care of, though.
We do have one last thing to take care of. Yeah.
This is the part of the episode where we give you something to listen to other than a full album that we just talked about.
Exactly. Other than a full album, we'll just my decision. We're just gonna with my song of the week. We'll microdose the album just a little bit. We're gonna go with Still Remains. I think that really has to be on the list. Apologies, Ethan, if I poached your song of the week. But
it's all good.
Yeah, it's got to be on there.
Mine will be my second album then.
There you go. So this is perfect. Yep.
Yes.
That's pretty much all you need. I mean, you have both sides of the coin right there. So
yeah,
it's great.
Yep. For this week, I'll put on. I guess I'll have to put on kitchenware and candy bars.
I guess kitchenware and candy bars has to be there because they're not separate on streaming services. So you'll have to suffer through 4 or 5 minutes of kitchenware and candy bars before you can get to the main event.
The big punch of Dick Peterson.
the big. They'll be bringing it to you.
Awesome. Yeah, so those are our 2 songs. Thanks again. Please consider supporting. Keep listening. Keep following. Keep sharing, and we'll keep doing this. Then big things coming as Drew is laughing at us right now because we've been saying that, and he's like, "What's going on, guys? Is there something I don't know?" Which I think is so funny.
Yeah. He'll know when he needs to know.
He'll know,
Everybody will. So once again, thank you so much for joining us on this meandering journey through Stone Temple Pilots and their second album, Purple. Really, really great album. So go ahead, show us some support, and listen to Purple while you're doing it. And tell a friend, tell a neighbor. That's pretty much all you got to do. And we will be right back here, same time next week for episode 103, closing in on the second birthday of the Grunge Bible podcast. Ethan, a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Rock and roll, everybody.